A sleepy town where children's laughter bounces off brick walls and dogs chase each other through sunlit yards. The smell of fresh pies drifts from the local shop and neighbours wave, share stories and check in on each other. It feels safe, familiar, ordinary. But beneath the calm, one woman's anger, jealousy and need for control threads through the town like smoke. Men, families and a community, none left untouched by the brutal imagery that refuses to fade. This is the collision of the ordinary and the terrifying, love and violence, safety and danger, and the story of a darkness that reaches far beyond the walls of a home. Welcome to If These Trees Could Talk.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wonnarua people, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We recognise their continuing connection to this land, its waterways and its seasons. The Hunter Valley has a long history of close-knit community. It has long been a place where families live and work together, where neighbours look out for one another. Today, as we explore the shadows that have touched this land, we honour not only the resilience of the Wonnarua and Gamilaroi nations, but also the communities and the individuals affected by the darker chapters of our valley's history.
Her actions were chillingly calculated.
I can't sit still. I'm so uncomfortable listening to this.
While they couldn't live with or without each other, something truly awful was bound to happen, and it was only a matter of time. Despite his fear, he returned home that night, hoping nothing would happen while he slept. But it did. Before we dive into the next chapter of Katherine Knight's story, let's take a moment to catch you up. Or if you haven't heard it yet, you probably want to go back and listen to the first part of this episode. Would you suggest that, Megan?
No. Turn this off now too.
Again, we'll pop a trigger warning here. This is not one for listening to with the kids. Today's discussion will reference childhood and domestic abuse, sexual assault, extreme violence, and graphic descriptions of criminal behaviour. It explores traumatic events, including abuse towards children, intimate partner violence, and threats with weapons.
I'd like to add to your disclaimer there, Shannon, that if you found the last episode difficult to listen to, or any of these episodes ever, I would highly recommend giving this one a miss. She kills her husband, jump into episode 3 and kick off from there.
Yeah, great, because it's gruesome.
Yeah.
And there's no way to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. And I think a lot of people will know about it. And if you don't, or you don't feel like you're ready, do what Megan suggests. Jump into episode 3, hear where we wrap it up, and then you can make the choice for yourself. In the last episode, we looked at Katherine's early life in Aberdeen, a small Hunter Valley town in New South Wales shaped by farms and the local abattoir. We saw how her childhood, filled with trauma and violence, set the stage for patterns that would follow her into adulthood. And then there was her first marriage to David Kellett, a young man who quickly learned that Katherine's charm came with a terrifying edge, and their first daughter Melissa's traumatic experiences during the time of the first breakdown in her parents' relationship. But this was just a glimpse of what was to come. Again, if you haven't listened to part 1, I suggest you jump back and do that before diving in here. Katherine's next relationship began in 1986 when she met David Saunders, a local miner. At first, he was drawn in by her intense charisma, the way she would make someone feel needed, wanted, indispensable. Within months, Saunders had moved in with Katherine and her 2 daughters, stepping into the whirlwind of her world.
David again?
David again. We've got 2 Davids and then we've got 2 Johns. Not confusing at all. But there was a catch. Saunders, perhaps wary of how fast things were moving, chose to keep his own home. He lived in Scone. Just for your own mapping references.
20-minute drive?
Yeah, roundabout. For him, it may have seemed like a sensible fallback, a safety net. For Katherine, however, the very existence of that out option, and I'm using air quotes here, gnawed at her, feeding her paranoia that he would eventually leave her, a spark that ignited cycles of jealousy, control, and escalating violence. At first, their relationship carried the same push and pull of passion and volatility that had defined her earlier marriage. Katherine's jealousy was consuming. She wanted Saunders entirely. When tensions flared, she would kick him out and he would retreat to his own home. She would obsess over what he might be doing, her fears manifesting in relentless pursuit, showing up on his doorstep, begging him to return. While sex sometimes served as a tool to regain control, when she felt that slipping, violence became her language. One of the most chilling incidents occurred in May 1987. Saunders testified in court that Katherine had done the worst thing he could imagine. He had recently brought home an 8-week-old dingo pup who he loved dearly. During an argument, Katherine stormed outside. Saunders thought, I'll let her cool off. But then he remembered his puppy was out there. What he saw next would stay with him forever. Katherine cut the puppy's throat in front of him. The act was not random. It was deliberate, a demonstration of power, a warning of what could happen if he ever left her. I can't do the puppy thing.
I can't sit still. I'm so uncomfortable listening to this.
That's not the only dog thing. Something else comes up later. I really struggle with the dog stuff. Like the human stuff too. Like
Good to know.
But I've tried to be so
understanding
through all of this.
Yeah. I can see you trying.
But fuck people who hurt animals. I can't do it. Physical violence was also relentless within this relationship. Saunders was once knocked unconscious by a blow from a frying pan. Seems to be a recurring theme.
Well, it works if you've seen Tangled.
I haven't seen Tangled.
The Disney Rapunzel movie. She uses a frying pan.
To hit somebody in the head?
Yeah.
Jesus. Disney's really stepped up its game since.
It's quite comical in that movie.
Yeah, and sometimes in this, like I think, is this like some kind of Looney Tunes thing? Like, you can't do this shit to people.
You can't make this up, can you?
No.
Yeah.
It was not unusual for David Saunders to turn up to work with cuts and bruises on his face. Katherine had broken a couple of his ribs and inflicted a deep laceration on one of his wrists, requiring stitches. And yet in those rare moments of calm, Saunders remembered her capacity for tenderness, moments of nurturing, and even genuine affection, which really only makes the extreme opposite of the violence.
I think this is very standard for all domestic violence relationships, isn't it?
Quite possibly. I don't know. I've never been in a violent relationship, so I can't.
People who don't understand would say, well, why didn't you just leave? And there are so many reasons for why they wouldn't leave.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just.
Do you think that we're just looking at it differently because it's in a typically reverse male-female, a reverse of what we would usually understand with domestic violence?
Possibly, and that whole thing that this flips it all on its head. In a way, when you think about domestic violence, when the woman is the victim, you think about a man being physically stronger. In one of the documentaries I watched, they talked about the men that she was with. Like, in my mind, I just see the man as the strong person, but in that documentary it explained that a lot of these men were actually quite gentle souls. And so maybe these like intimidation tactics really terrified them. And I suppose when someone's traumatized, physical strength doesn't matter really, does it?
And then when they apologise and say they'll never do it again and they remember all the wonderful things, then...
And it sounds like a lot of her manipulation was done with sex as well. So, and there's a lot of reports, and I haven't included it in this episode, that she was actually pretty great in bed.
Well, you have included in this episode.
Well, I have now included it in this episode, but I didn't want that to be the defining thing because I didn't want to put that stereotype, you know, that's the most important thing, because it's definitely not for all men. But I think she really used it as a tool of manipulation.
You mentioned a documentary.
Yeah, so I'll link all this stuff in the show notes. I'll give you a little rundown of what'll be there at the end.
Okay, go on.
Okay. David and Katherine had a daughter together, further entwining their lives. Saunders tried to navigate the unpredictability of her moods, but over time the paranoia, control and violence became impossible to live with. The breaking point came after an argument in which Katherine hit him in the face with an iron and stabbed him in the stomach with a pair of scissors. He left, returning later to gather his belongings, only to find that she had cut up all of his clothes. Soon after, she vandalised his car, and Saunders took long service leave from work and went into hiding.
With his child?
No, the child was still with her. Katherine tried desperately to track him down, but no one would reveal his location. Months later, he finally returned to see his daughter, only to discover that Katherine had gone to the police, claimed that she feared him, and authorities took her concerns seriously and issued an apprehended violence order against him. Now, as I was writing this, I was rage pounding the keyboard here. I have some very strong feelings about women who use children as a weapon. And I shouldn't say women. I'm obviously referring to Katherine in this case, but any person who weaponises children in custody battles.
Yeah, she's not winning Mother of the Year.
No.
She wasn't before this child.
No. And it's impossible to ignore the chilling dynamic of adults using children as tools, weapons, or leverage in their own conflicts. In most discussions about family violence, the focus is on mothers seeking protection from abusive fathers, and that is for very good reason. The system has historically failed women in danger. But Katherine's story flips that script on its head. Here, it was the mother who was the aggressor, manipulating and terrifying those closest to her, including her own children, to control the men in her life. The fact that Katherine went to the police claiming she feared Saunders, prompting an apprehended violence order, illustrates the disturbing complexity when children are used as leverage in relationships. Authorities can be placed in impossible positions. They must weigh the claim of protection against the patterns of abuse, all while trying to not punish a parent for seeking safety, or in this case, for fabricating a threat to manipulate access. Adults weaponising children in this way leaves everyone in the system wary, frustrated, and sometimes desensitised, creating blind spots that can allow real danger to slip through, and here it did. It's infuriating on a human level for anyone who has seen the devastation caused by misused legal protections and custody arrangements. It's easy to feel rage at this injustice. Yet this is also why social services, police and courts are sometimes cautious, slow or hesitant. Extreme cases like Katherine's blur the lines between victim and aggressor, and they complicate the ways authorities intervene. The result is a system that can fail both the truly vulnerable and the children caught in the crossfire, and a society that struggles to know how to respond when the most basic trust within a family is weaponised. If those around Katherine, her family, friends, bystanders, had felt empowered to be able to intervene, the police and social services might have been able to frame these events in a way that could have offered real protection rather than being caught in a web of manipulation. Instead, the people who saw what was happening often froze, unsure how to act, or simply didn't know the full extent of the danger. But fuck her family. Like, why was no one in her family doing anything?
I have questions about her family. Where are they? Where's Joy? They were so close back in high school.
So they're all still around. They're all still in Aberdeen. And this is the thing. Like, they all see this going on.
Maybe they are doing things. We really don't know. And what can they do if she's refusing to get help?
I don't know. The whole thing seems impossible. And I think this is why going through this, I keep talking about, the systems failing, because somebody should have done something. I just can't believe that we got to this point. And there was no intervention. We're going to hear a little bit about what happens to kids when there's no intervention. Melissa's experience show just how terrifying this could be. When she was around 12, she entered a room where Katherine was just having a conversation with a friend, and she interrupted with a simple question or comment, and Katherine, without hesitation, punched her in the face before returning to the conversation with her friend as if nothing had happened.
Is this Melissa's account?
Melissa's account, yes. It was a revealing incident in a child's everyday actions, met with disproportionate and brutal responses. And yet those witnessing it, as in her mother's friend, who was sitting in the kitchen, another adult in the house, said or did nothing.
Well, I can't imagine ever being in that situation, but I do wonder how I would have reacted if I was that friend.
Like, I understand when people are around someone who is violent or intimidating or manipulative, that sometimes they feel powerless to do anything about it. And whether that's fear or, whatever the thing is, I can understand parts of that. But you are complicit to these acts in your silence.
Yep.
And we know where it leads.
And if this is what she's doing when someone's watching, what is she?
Well, here's another one.
Yay.
Years later, at a pub in Aberdeen, Melissa was now an adult and was out with her friends, and Katherine appeared at the pub. Without warning, she grabbed her daughter by the hair and smashed her head repeatedly on the table and dragged Melissa into the car park. There she continued to assault her daughter, smashing Melissa's head against the side of the car before throwing her into the passenger seat, all in the name of taking her home. Melissa was an adult.
Did Melissa not want to come home?
I don't know.
Doesn't make it okay. Yeah.
There were people at the pub that witnessed this. And the reports were that they were all, terrified by the intensity of this attack, unsure of how to step in. Surely.
Well, when there's two men having a punch-up, people step in.
And there's a whole pub full of people. She's one woman.
Well, what are they doing?
And someone call the fucking police.
Let us know if you were there.
Yeah.
Why didn't anyone react? We would like to understand, because what would I do if I was there watching that happen?
I know what I would do, and I'm the person who will get stabbed one day because of that.
I would be asking you to do something. Whoever I'm with, oi, you need to go and do something about that.
Yeah.
It's hard to listen to, Shannon.
It's hard. It's really hard. By 1990, Catherine's life had moved into another chapter, this time with John Chillingworth, a 43-year-old former slaughterhouse co-worker.
She needs to go find her fish from another pond.
Yeah. Their meeting was almost absurdly mundane, yet darkly fitting. At the abattoir, amidst the hum of the machinery and the scent of blood, Catherine's gaze caught Chillingsworth's. It was an immediate connection, one that escalated quickly. Within weeks, she was pregnant. A child, a boy named Eric, was born the following year in 1991. Chillingworth, however, quickly ran into a problem. Katherine refused to let him move into her home. Her mother, Barbara, had recently passed away, and Katherine had inherited the house. She decorated it in a way that reflected her fascination with death, control, and mastery over her surroundings. The walls were covered with animal skins, skulls, horns, rusty traps, machetes, old farm implements, and the elaborate decoration even extended to the ceiling, so there was like stuff hanging off the roof. Her collection of horror movies sat alongside these displays, a testament to her fascination with violence and the macabre.
And the what?
Macabre.
What's that?
Is that how you say it?
Mm.
Macabre.
What is it?
Okay, Google, what's the definition of macabre?
Or ghastly atmosphere, emphasizing the details and symbols of death, or being particularly gruesome.
In no way I don't know the definition of that word. Why I've never heard that word in my life.
That's why I know it and you don't. Morbid. That's how I would have described it. This wasn't mere decoration. It was a ritualised assertion of dominance, a world in which everything, living or dead, was hers to command. The relationship with Chillingworth lasted around 3 years, but like all of Catherine's romances, it ended in violence. In one of their final clashes, she smashed Chillingworth's false teeth to pieces.
Were they in his mouth?
I don't know. That was in the court report.
Okay.
But the real reason their relationship collapsed wasn't just the fighting. Katherine had set her sights on someone else. She had met John Price, known as Pricey, at a local pub, and once that spark was lit, Chillingworth was quickly discarded.
She didn't meet him at the slaughterhouse.
She didn't. No. It was a step up. John Price was born on January 6, 1955, and by the time he met Katherine Knight, he was well known as a terrific bloke. Friends, family, even his ex-wife Colleen all described him as one of the kindest, gentlest men you would ever meet. He and Colleen had separated amicably back in 1988. Not a messy breakup, just two people who decided it wasn't working. They never actually divorced, and in many ways he still carried a torch for her. That alone says a lot about his character. He was loyal, he cared deeply for his family, and he wanted to keep the peace. He and Colleen had 3 children together. Their daughter stayed with her while the 2 older kids lived with Pricey. By the time Katherine came into his life in 1993, his eldest was already an adult and the younger 2 were teenagers still living at home. Colleen even insisted that Pricey keep their family home after the separation, a gesture that speaks volumes about the respect that she had for him. Everybody who knew him echoed the same thing. He wasn't violent, he wasn't cruel, he was a loving father and a good man. And yet, he walked into Catherine's world with full knowledge of her reputation for violence. Maybe he thought he could be the one to change her. Maybe he believed that love and stability could tame her storms. Either way, Katherine saw him as a prize catch. He was earning good money in the local mines, he had a home, He had a big heart, and she wasn't about to let him slip through her fingers. For Katherine, Pricey was a step up. Steady, reliable, well-liked in the community. He wasn't just another partner to fill a gap. He was, in her mind, a real prize catch. And the early days between them seemed promising. They laughed together, they went out together, and Katherine settled into his home with a determination to make it her own. For a while, it seemed like maybe she had found the kind of man who could give her the stability that she'd never had. Friends would later say that she appeared calmer, more content, and even happy when things were good. Pricey's warmth and easygoing nature balanced out her fiery temper, at least for a time. John's daughter Rebecca mentions in an interview that she remembers them getting on quite well and that she doesn't remember much arguing. His other daughter Rosemary recalls that in those early days, she actually didn't mind her. She says she knew she was different, but she was good for her dad in some ways. She said that they both had their good and bad points. But those times weren't without red flags. Rebecca recalls a time when she was young that they were driving down the road and a dog ran out. Katherine swerved to hit it. Rebecca said, "Kath, what are you doing that for?" And Katherine replied, "Oh, I don't like dogs." By late 1995, Katherine had moved in with Pricey at the family house on St Andrew Street. The kids all seemed to get along well. For her, it must have felt like living in Buckingham Palace after the cramped little cottage she inherited on McQueen Street. The walls crowded with dead animals and skulls. But the fairy tale didn't last long. The drinking escalated and so did the fighting, and they could be seen at each other's throats in the street outside of the house or in any of the local hotels where they drank. One minute it was all laughs and affection, and the next they were arguing. By 1998, the tension between Katherine and Pricey had reached a new level. Pricey was legally separated from his ex-wife Colleen, though they had never divorced. And this fact seemed to drive Katherine absolutely wild. She was desperate for him to marry her, and every refusal felt like a personal affront. The fights over this simmered constantly, bubbling up into arguments that could flare into violence. Katherine even stole money from Pricey and bought herself a ring, which really angered his kids, who could now see that their kind-hearted dad was being manipulated. That year, Katherine took a drastic step. She secretly recorded a videotape at home of some items that Pricey had allegedly taken from work. She claimed it was revenge over yet another fight about his ongoing refusal to marry her, a fight in which he had hit her. At first, she planned to use the videotape as blackmail against him to try and bend him to her will. But after one particularly horrendous argument, she escalated and she sent the video to his bosses at the mines. The items on the tape were barely worth mentioning. A few out-of-date medical kits scavenged from the company bin by a thrifty Pricey. But it didn't matter. He was fired from the job he had loved for 17 years. The same day, Pricey booted Katherine out of his home. She fled back to her tiny chamber of horrors on McQueen Street, leaving behind a trail of gossip. But no one was really shocked by her actions. The story of her viciousness spread through the township like a bushfire. A few months later, Pricey took her back, though he refused to let her move in with him. By then, most of his friends had washed their hands of him when Katherine was around. The fights resumed with renewed venom. They drank and argued over her getting him sacked, over his refusal to marry her, over the fact that his life was still legally tied to another woman. Then it was on for all to see. To anyone watching, it was painfully obvious. While they couldn't live with or without each other, something truly awful was bound to happen, and it was only a matter of time.
All right, I'm just going to go and get some food while you tell the rest of this story. Headphones down, I'm out.
Yeah. Pricey's friends didn't hesitate to voice what they were thinking. Why do you even want to be with her? They would ask him. But Pricey, loyal in his own way, couldn't quite let go. The threats were no longer subtle. In front of his friend Trevor, Katherine once said, "You'll never get me out of this house. I'll do you in first." Katherine's brother Kenneth later told police that 5 months before the murder, she openly declared, "I'm going to kill Pricey and I'm going to get away with it. I'll make out that I'm mad." And Pricey, who had once run to a neighbour's house during a fight, knew firsthand how seriously he had to take those threats. She had even come at him with a butcher's knife once, and he barely escaped with his life. Then came the day before the unthinkable. Katherine's behaviour was strange and deliberate. She collected a video camera from her sister Joy, stopped by her daughter Natasha's home and filmed herself playing with the baby, making odd, unsettling statements. "I love all of my children. I hope to see you all again."
What baby?
Natasha's baby. So she was a grandma by this stage. She took Natasha and her family out for a special dinner. She also arranged for the children to all stay away overnight, ensuring she would be alone in the house with him because the teenagers were still at home. Pricey was aware of the danger. He had tried to protect himself. He obtained a restraining order and even warned co-workers that if he didn't come into work the next day, it would be because Katherine had killed him. Despite his fear, he returned home that night, obviously with concern for his own children, hoping nothing would happen while he slept. But it did. Katherine entered the house after Pricey had gone to bed. She watched TV, showered, and then woke Pricey. What followed was almost too horrific to imagine. After showering and having sex with him, she stabbed him 37 times. He tried to escape, reaching the front door, even managed to step outside, but she dragged him back in, continuing her frenzied attack. His body bore wounds to vital organs, including his lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, colon, and the aorta, the very vessel that ensures life itself. Her actions were chillingly calculated. After his death, she then stole his ATM card and drove around 10 minutes to Muswellbrook, withdrawing cash from his account. Showing that she knew exactly what she was doing, she withdrew $500 at a few minutes to midnight and then another $500 a few minutes after midnight, obviously aware of the daily withdrawal limits. This is not the actions of someone in a rage or a frenzy. This is planned and calculated decision-making. Then she returned to her house. She left her car there and walked back to John Price's home. Once inside, she skinned him in one piece: face, scalp, ears. The only skin that was left on his body was a patch that held a scar of a previous stab wound that Katherine had inflicted. She then hung his entire skin like a grotesque trophy on a butcher's hook in the hallway. She decapitated him and cooked portions of his body. His head was placed in a stock pot with vegetables and water, and other portions were cooked and left on prepared plates for his children with name tags and horrible notes that contained untrue allegations. I'm not going to say what those notes said.
Oh, you're holding back.
I am. Because they were aimed at Pricey's children and they made allegations against them. And they're out there. If you want to go and search for them, fine. But I'm not putting that into the universe. His skinless body was arranged in the house on a lounge chair with his arm resting over a soft drink bottle and legs crossed in a last act of defilement.
I've had enough.
That's fine. Let's call it there. And we'll make them wait another fortnight. I promise it's worth waiting because I do have some personal reflections and there's a bit of a psychology deep dive. Not a mental health professional, but I have some thoughts and some feelings about some stuff. So we can then kind of move that in and then wrap up the trial and Catherine's life in prison in just one nice, tidy, neat little bundle at the end.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of If These Trees Could Talk. If you would like to access more about the places or information included in today's topic, please visit our website ifthesetreescouldtalk.com.au. If you would like to follow us on our adventures, check us out on Facebook or Insta. Our creative writer is Shannon Walters and our podcast is produced at Bellevue Studio in the Hunter Valley with audio production by Megan Anderson. We love to hear your feedback, so please rate and review, and if you would like to hear more, please subscribe. We look forward to you joining us for our next adventure.